A soft, mocking giggle in the room meant for her unborn daughter tore Eleanor Voss's heart to shreds. In the opulent penthouse at One Magnificent Mile, where Chicago's twinkling lights shimmered like whispered promises, she stood frozen, her hands cradling her pregnant belly, feeling Lily's faint heartbeat as the only flame still flickering in her soul. Her husband, Julian Caldwell, a titan of technology, had betrayed her with an old enemy, right in the sacred sanctuary she had built for their child. The pain cut like a blade, sharp and merciless, yet within Eleanor's spirit, a resilient fire roared to life. This is not just a tale of deceit, it is a journey of transforming agony into eternal light. Alright, before you settle in, take a sec to like the video and subscribe, but only if you're genuinely vibing with what I'm putting out here. And drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a thrill to see who's joining us from all corners of the globe. High atop the gleaming glass tower at One Magnificent Mile, where Chicago's city lights intertwine with the deep azure of Lake Michigan, Eleanor Voss lived a life that seemed woven from the fabric of extravagant dreams. Her $20 million penthouse was an architectural masterpiece, every detail crafted like a symphony of perfection. Brazilian walnut floors, sourced directly from tropical forests, shimmered under the soft glow of Swarovski chandeliers suspended from soaring ceilings. In the living room, a Basquiat painting bursting with vibrant colors and raw emotion hung on an Italian silk-covered wall, a bold declaration of its owner's refined taste. Every corner of the home, from ancient Etruscan pottery vases on the bookshelves to the faint scent of bergamot wafting from an essential oil diffuser, bore Eleanor's mark, a woman who not only lived in wealth but shaped it with her vision. Eleanor Voss was more than a name. She was the last heir of the Voss dynasty, pioneers who laid the foundation for America's steel industry in the 19th century, turning industrial dreams into reality through sweat and unyielding resolve. That legacy flowed through her veins, not just as wealth but as an indomitable spirit, forged across generations. Yet Eleanor did not rest on her ancestors' laurels. Armed with an MBA from the Kellogg School of Management, she proved her razor-sharp intellect in secretive boardrooms, where billion-dollar ideas took shape. But her heart lay not in numbers or contracts. It belonged to quiet acts of kindness, generous donations to children's hospitals across the Midwest, where she silently brought hope to families battling illness. She sought no spotlight or applause. For Eleanor, compassion was a language that needed no words. By her side stood Julian Caldwell, a husband the world admired. As CEO of Biovance, a biotech company leading the gene editing revolution, Julian was an icon of innovation and power. His chiseled face, always wearing a confident smile, graced the cover of Forbes with the headline, "The Man, Redefining the Future of Medicine." On the pages of Vogue, he and Eleanor were celebrated as the perfect couple, their love and ambition intertwined in every glance they shared at charity galas. They were the epicenter of Chicago's elite, their every gesture, from the way they raised champagne flutes to the way they entered a room radiating an irresistible allure. Their love story, a blend of a gifted philanthropist and a tech genius, seemed proof that life could be as beautiful as a painting. But the true center of Eleanor's world was not the glamour or the headlines. It was Lily, the daughter she carried in her womb, just months away from being born. Each night, as the city slipped into slumber, Eleanor placed her hand on her belly, feeling Lily's gentle kicks like whispers of a future yet to unfold. She spent hours envisioning her daughter's room, where murals would tell tales of flamingos soaring over the Everglades marshes, where the soothing scent of mint would cradle Lily's dreams. For Eleanor, family was the flame that warmed her heart, the reason she rose each morning, and the vessel for all her hopes. In her world, Everything from the opulent penthouse to the Voss dynasty's legacy revolved around one singular purpose: building a secure and radiant future for Lily. Yet, beneath that flawless surface, a storm was silently brewing. The smiles on magazine covers, the hand-holding before cameras, and the whispered words of love in the dark all concealed a truth waiting to be unveiled. Eleanor, with her open heart and fierce belief in family, had no inkling that the dazzling light of her life was about to be swallowed by darkness. But in that very moment, when everything seemed most perfect, fate was preparing to test her not just to destroy, but to forge an Eleanor Voss stronger than ever before. Beneath Chicago's radiant purple sunset, as the last rays of daylight shimmered on Lake Michigan's surface, Eleanor Voss trudged wearily through her opulent penthouse at One Magnificent Mile. 7 months pregnant, she felt the weight of her unborn daughter, Lily, in every breath. All day, she had poured her heart into her charitable foundation, where quiet donations brought smiles to children in Midwest pediatric hospitals. Now, in the gentle glow of her home, she yearned for a moment of peace, a sanctuary to embrace her dreams for her daughter's future. But fate, with its cruel precision, was poised to deliver a devastating blow to her heart. Julian, the husband the world adored, had left early with a familiar excuse: a late meeting with investors from Silicon Valley. In their world, such evenings apart were not uncommon. As CEO of Biovance, a biotech company spearheading the gene-editing revolution, Julian was often swept into billion-dollar deals, where handshakes and champagne glasses shaped the future. Eleanor, with an open heart, always trusted him not just out of love, but because she believed they were building a legacy for Lily together. She smiled, gently stroking her belly, and chose to spend the evening in the most sacred space of their home: Lily's room. That room was a haven, a sanctuary Eleanor had crafted with all the love of a mother's heart. Every detail was chosen with care, like notes in a symphony of hope. Hand-painted murals by a Florida artist depicted flamingos soaring over the Everglades marshes, vibrant with life and freedom. The ceiling sparkled with glowing constellations, a promise that Lily would always have radiant dreams. A cherished oak cradle, passed down through 3 generations of the Voss family, stood solemnly at the center, ready to embrace the child. Each night, Eleanor misted soothing mint essential oil onto silk blankets, creating a pure fragrance, like a tender welcome for her daughter into the world. The room was not just a space, it was Eleanor's heart, where she poured all her love and dreams. But as she stepped through the marble-tiled hallway, a strange sound sliced through her thoughts. A soft, sharp giggle echoed from Lily's room. Eleanor's heart pounded, as if sensing something horrific. She paused, her trembling hand resting on her belly, feeling Lily's heartbeat as a reminder of why she fought each day. That sound did not belong here, not in her daughter's sanctuary. With silent steps, she approached the half-open oak door, where light from a star-shaped nightlight slipped through the crack, casting hazy shadows. She pushed the door, just enough to reveal a scene that made the ground beneath her crumble. In the gentle glow of the lamp, Julian, his shirt disheveled, held a woman tightly, his arms wrapped around her, as if the world existed only for them. That woman, with shimmering blonde hair and a smug smile, was Cassandra Holt, daughter of Richard Holt, CEO of HelixGen, Biovance's fiercest rival. They stood beside the oak cradle, meant only for Lily's innocent dreams. Cassandra's red silk dress, crumpled around her waist, was like a bloodstain on Eleanor's sacred canvas. Their gasping breaths mingled with the mint fragrance, defiling the space she had built with her heart. In that moment, Time seemed to freeze. The air was sucked from Eleanor's lungs, and the world shrank to a nauseating pinpoint of light. She saw every detail with excruciating clarity. Cassandra's red-painted nails digging into Julian's shoulders, her triumphant smirk as she tilted her head back, and the Patek Philippe watch, a 5th anniversary gift from Eleanor, gleaming on his wrist. They didn't see her. They were lost in their own profane world. While Lily's cradle, just steps away, stood silent as a witness to the ultimate betrayal. Eleanor felt a primal scream rise in her throat, searing and bitter. But she swallowed it. She would not give them the satisfaction of a scene. With a control she didn't know she possessed, she stepped back, leaving the door with the tiniest crack. Her hand remained on her belly, cradling Lily like a silent vow. I will protect you. This betrayal was not just a knife to her heart, it was a declaration of war. And Eleanor Voss, with the fire of the Voss dynasty in her veins, was ready to fight back. In that fateful moment, as the dim glow of a star-shaped nightlight illuminated two figures in Lily's room, Eleanor Voss's heart was torn asunder. The sight of Julian, the husband she cherished, entwined with Cassandra Holt beside the sacred oak cradle, was not merely a betrayal, it was a razor-sharp dagger, slicing deep into all she held dear. But as her eyes met Cassandra's face, smug with arrogance and blonde hair shimmering under the light, Eleanor's pain transcended the present. A flood of agonizing memories from the past surged back, dragging her into a maelstrom of double betrayal, as if fate had deliberately set a cruel trap to test her steely resolve. 10 years ago, in the light-filled halls of the Kellogg School of Management, Eleanor and Cassandra were inseparable friends. They sat side by side in classes on financial strategy, shared late-night coffees in the library, and whispered dreams of changing the world. Eleanor, with an open heart, confided in Cassandra her deepest wound-sure fear of failing to live up to the Voss family legacy, her sleepless nights under the weight of familial expectations. Cassandra, with bright eyes and a gentle voice, always listened, always comforted. They dreamed together of prestigious scholarships, opportunities to reach the pinnacle of the business world. But it was all a facade. In a dark moment, Cassandra betrayed Eleanor, spreading false rumors that she had cheated on a critical exam. The gossip, like a wildfire, consumed Eleanor's chance at the coveted Fulbright scholarship, leaving a scar that never healed. Cassandra, with a hollow smile, offered a perfunctory apology and vanished from her life, leaving Eleanor alone to face the wreckage of her dreams. Now, standing in the shadowed hallway of her penthouse, watching Cassandra in Julian's arms, Eleanor realized this reunion was no accident. The arrogant smirk on Cassandra's lips, the way she tilted her head back like a victor, was not just the boast of a mistress. It was a calculated strike, a dagger aimed at Eleanor's heart and legacy. Cassandra, daughter of Richard Holt, CEO of HelixGen, Biovance's fiercest rival, had returned not only to steal her family's happiness, but to dismantle the empire she and Julian had built together. This betrayal was not a fleeting act of lust, it was a plan woven from hatred and ambition, a scheme to obliterate everything Eleanor had sacrificed to protect. The world around her seemed to collapse. The air in Lily's room, once filled with the pure scent of mint essential oil, was now tainted by Julian and Cassandra's gasping breaths. The oak cradle, a 3-generation Voss family heirloom, stood silent as a witness to the desecration. Eleanor felt a primal scream rise in her throat, searing and bitter, threatening to shatter the apartment's silence. But she held it back. She would not give them the satisfaction of a spectacle. Her hand, trembling yet resolute, rested on her belly, cradling Lily, the sole source of strength in this emotional tempest. She felt her daughter's heartbeat, A reminder that she could not falter, could not let her enemies see her tears. In her mind, her mother's voice echoed, fierce and unyielding, like a flame that never dies. Don't let your enemies see your tears, Eleanor. Let them see your fire. Those words, etched deep from childhood, when her mother, a woman who revived the Voss steel empire from the brink of ruin, taught her that tears are a luxury, but strength is a legacy. Eleanor stepped back, each move deliberate, like a warrior retreating to prepare for a greater battle. She closed the door, leaving only the smallest crack, as if preserving a sliver of hope amid the darkness. Her eyes, though blurred with pain, began to spark with a new fire, the fire of resilience, of a woman fighting not just for herself but for the child she swore to protect. Julian's betrayal had shattered her heart. Cassandra's return had reopened old wounds. But in that moment of deepest pain, Eleanor realized a truth. She was not a victim. She was a Voss, forged by trials and unbreakable in adversity. Cassandra and Julian might think they had won, but they were unaware they had ignited a fire that could not be extinguished. Eleanor, with Lily in her heart and her family's legacy in her blood, was ready to transform her pain into strength, to face her enemies not just with intelligence, but with an unshakable will of steel. In the suffocating darkness of her pain, as the light from Lily's room was tainted by Julian and Cassandra's betrayal, Eleanor Voss stood at a fateful crossroads. Her heart, bleeding from the double shock of deception and haunting memories, refused to let her crumble. She was a descendant of the Voss dynasty, forged by generations of indomitable women who turned adversity into the foundation of an empire. With hands still cradling Lily, her unborn daughter, Eleanor quietly withdrew from the opulent penthouse at One Magnificent Mile, seeking refuge in the timeless elegance of the Drake Hotel, where ebony walls and soft golden light seemed to embrace her in silence. There, in a room overlooking the shimmering Lake Michigan, she shed no tears. Instead, she ignited a flame of will, resilience, and a mother's fierce resolve to protect her child's future. Seated on a plush, deep green velvet chair, Eleanor drew a deep breath, feeling Lily's heartbeat as a reminder that weakness was not an option. She reached for her phone, her fingers gliding through the contacts with a strategist's precision. She didn't call her mother or best friend, those who could offer comfort, but not action. Instead, she dialed Olivia Kane, Chicago's infamous divorce attorney. A legend in legal circles with silver hair gleaming like steel and eyes sharp as a blade. Olivia was more than a lawyer. She was the one who had helped Eleanor's grandmother, a titan of the Voss dynasty, shield their steel empire from hostile takeovers in the 1980s, when predatory corporations circled their legacy. The phone rang once before Olivia's low, steady voice answered. "Eleanor, what's happened?" In the dim glow of the hotel room, Eleanor recounted everything from the mocking giggle in Lily's room, the sight of Julian and Cassandra beside the oak cradle, to the searing memory of Cassandra's betrayal a decade ago at Kellogg. Her voice didn't waver, though each word felt like a cut to her heart. She ended with a single, cold, resolute sentence. "I need to take back my life, Olivia. And I need to protect Lily." Olivia listened without interruption, her piercing eyes glinting with understanding. When Eleanor finished, Olivia nodded, a small but powerful gesture. "We're not just taking back what's yours, Eleanor," she said, her voice like a declaration of war. "We'll build a fortress for Lilione no one can breach." Those words pierced the darkness like a ray of light, fanning the ember of resolve within Eleanor. She realized this was more than an affair, it was a deeper conspiracy, targeting not just her family's happiness but Biovance, the company Julian led and she had quietly helped build. Cassandra, daughter of Richard Holt, CEO of Helix Gen, Biovance's greatest rival was not merely a mistress. Her presence in Lily's room, at the very heart of Eleanor's world, was a deliberate strike, part of a larger plan to destroy the empire they had forged and her daughter's future. Eleanor knew that to fight, she needed information, and she needed to act fast. Without hesitation, Eleanor authorized Olivia to hire Chicago's top private investigators, renowned for unearthing truths from the darkest corners of the elite. The team, led by a former FBI agent with a reputation for relentlessness, began probing Cassandra and Julian. They scoured financial transactions, tracked phone calls, and analyzed every digital footprint the pair left behind. Eleanor didn't just want reasons, she wanted the full picture. From Cassandra's motives to the secrets Julian might be hiding. Each night, in her room at the Drake, she pored over preliminary reports, her eyes scanning numbers and details with a strategist's focus. She saw that the affair was only the surface of a larger scheme, a plot that could topple Biovance and with it, the dream of bringing hope to millions through gene-editing technology. In the hotel's stillness, as city lights flickered through the window, Eleanor felt a new strength rising. She was no longer the betrayed wife, frozen in the penthouse hallway's shadows. She was Eleanor Voss, heir to an unyielding legacy, a mother ready to fight to her last breath for her child. Olivia, with her blade-sharp gaze, became her first ally in this war. But Eleanor knew that to win, she needed Moria team, a plan, and an unbreakable will. Julian and Cassandra's betrayal had sparked a flame, but Eleanor would decide how it burned not to destroy, but to forge a new future where Lily would grow up in safety and love. In the elegant embrace of the Drake Hotel's room, where soft golden light caressed ebony walls, Eleanor Voss sat at an antique mahogany table, her piercing gaze gliding over pages of reports from the private investigators. Each line, each number, each detail was presented with chilling precision, like sharp daggers slowly unveiling a horrifying truth. The betrayal by Julian and Cassandra Holt, already a deep wound in her heart, now emerged as more than a sordid affair. It was a conspiracy woven from ambition and ruthlessness, a scheme aimed directly at Biovance's empire. Eleanor had quietly helped build, and the future of Lily, the daughter she vowed to protect with her life. Cassandra, with her arrogant smile and cold eyes in Lily's room, was no mere homewrecker. She was a strategist, a key pawn in Helix Gen's power game, and Eleanor held the evidence to turn the tables. The investigators' report, led by a former FBI agent with a relentless reputation, painted a terrifying picture of Cassandra Holt. Not just the daughter of Richard Holt, CEO of Helix Gen Biovance's fiercest rival. Cassandra was the company's strategic director, a brilliant mind behind its cutthroat deals. With a master's degree from MIT and a formidable reputation in biotech, she was not someone who merely donned red silk dresses and charming smiles. Her father, Richard, had tasked her with a covert mission: to infiltrate Julian Caldwell, exploiting his arrogance and inflated ego to steal the formula for Aurora, a revolutionary gene editing drug from Biovance. Aurora, capable of curing rare genetic diseases in children, was not just a medical breakthrough but Biovance's crown jewel, poised to generate billions and save countless lives. Losing it would ruin Biovance, along with the legacy Eleanor and Julian had forged together. Cassandra, with the cunning of a predator, had executed her plan over the past 4 months. She didn't just seduce Julian with her looks and honeyed words, she preyed on his greatest weakness, a blind belief that he was untouchable. Dozens of texts and calls between them, meticulously traced by the investigators, painted a vivid picture of betrayal. Messages like, "We need to meet to discuss the future," or "You're the only one who gets me," were laced with probing questions about Aurora, such as, "How does that formula work?" or "When will you announce it?" Each message was a thread, slowly weaving Julian into Cassandra's web. Secret meetings at luxurious Chicago hotels, candlelit dinners at discreet restaurants on Michigan Avenue, were all documented in the report, complete with receipts and distant photographs. But what chilled Eleanor to the core was the perfect alignment. Each encounter between Julian and Cassandra coincided with a leak from Biovance, sending the company's stock plummeting on NASDAQ, shaking investor confidence, and pushing Biovance to the brink. Julian, once hailed by Forbes as a tech genius, now appeared to Eleanor as a puppet, blinded by his swollen ego. He let arrogance cloud his judgment, believing he could play power games with Cassandra without consequence. He didn't realize that every word he spoke, every document he carelessly revealed, was a bullet fired at his own company and family. In Lily's room, where only Eleanor's lullabies should have echoed, Julian had let Cassandra invade, not only defiling a sacred space, but endangering Biovance's future and Lily's. His foolishness, fueled by lust and self-importance, made him the perfect tool for HelixGen's plot, a company ruthless in its quest to seize Aurora and dominate the biotech industry. Eleanor, seated in the hotel room, felt a tidal wave of fury rising, but she held it back. She refused to be swept away by the storm of emotions. Instead, she turned each page of the report, her eyes sharp as Olivia Kane's daggers, memorizing every detail. Cassandra was not just an enemy from the past, she was a present threat, a strategist targeting everything Eleanor cherished. But Eleanor was no longer the young woman Cassandra betrayed a decade ago. She was a mother, an heir to the Voss legacy, and a woman who had learned to forge strength from pain. This report was not just evidence, it was a weapon, and Eleanor was ready to wield it. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and felt Lily's heartbeat, a reminder that she was fighting not just for herself, but for a future where her daughter would grow up in light, not the shadow of betrayal. In the elegant haven of the Drake Hotel's room, where soft golden light from wall sconces adorned the refined space, Eleanor Voss sat amidst a complex web of information, meticulously unraveling the dark conspiracy of Cassandra Holt and Julian Caldwell. The private investigators' reports, with their razor-sharp details about Cassandra's role at HelixGen and Julian's blindness, transformed her pain into a blazing fire of determination. But in her quest for truth, when darkness seemed to swallow all hope, a sudden spark emerged, an unexpected ally who would reshape Eleanor's battle entirely. Nathan Reed, former chief engineer of Biovance, entered the story like a fresh breeze, bearing evidence that could turn the tide, and a steadfast belief in her vision. Eleanor, with the keen intellect of a strategist, relentlessly expanded her investigative network. She directed the investigators to scrutinize every connection to Julian, from close associates to those who had quietly left Biovance. In a report delivered at midnight, Nathan Reed's name surfaced as a crucial piece of the puzzle. Nathan, once the technical genius behind Biovance's breakthroughs, had been fired by Julian 2 years earlier after a heated dispute over development strategy. Julian, with his inflated ego, pushed for rapid product commercialization to maximize profits, heedless of ethical risks. Nathan, an engineer with a devoted heart, fiercely opposed this, insisting that Biovance prioritize safety and social responsibility, especially for gene editing technologies like Aurora, drug capable of saving millions of children with rare genetic disorders. The conflict ended with Nathan's ousting, leaving him with disillusionment and a hard drive containing secrets Julian thought were erased. The investigators, with their cunning, tracked Nathan to a small office in suburban Chicago, where he worked freelance as a tech consultant. Eleanor, without hesitation, requested a face-to-face meeting. In a quaint cafe by the Chicago River, under the pale afternoon sun, she faced Nathan, a tall, lean man with graying hair and eyes that gleamed with intelligence, tinged with traces of old wounds. She shared her story, unflinching in her pain. The betrayal she discovered in Lily's room, the horrifying truth of Cassandra's plot to steal Aurora. Nathan listened, his hands gripping his coffee cup tightly, And when Eleanor spoke of her vision for Biovancy, a company that not only profited but brought hope to desperate families, a faint smile crossed his lips. "Julian always saw me as an obstacle," Nathan said, his voice low but resolute. "But I never lost faith in what Biovance could achieve. And I believe you, Eleanor, can steer it right." He revealed that after his dismissal, he kept an encrypted hard drive containing proof of Julian's shady dealings. Emails, contracts, and memos showed Julian didn't just inadvertently leak data to Helix Genhe, deliberately shared sensitive information about Aurora to gain Helix Gen's support for another secretive biotech project, hoping to bolster his industry standing. These transactions, hidden through shell companies in Bermuda, were not only unethical but threatened to collapse Biovance if exposed. Nathan agreed to hand over the hard drive to Eleanor, but not just for justice. He saw in her a vision Julian never had a Biovance that was not merely a profit machine, but a beacon for those battling illness. "I'm helping you for Lily," he said, his eyes softening, "and for the other children who deserve a chance to live." His words struck Eleanor's heart, a reminder that her fight was not just for vengeance, but for a greater legacy. She took the hard drive, feeling its weight not only in her hands but in her soul, like a key unlocking the door to justice. In the sunset's crimson glow over the Chicago River, Eleanor left the cafe with an unexpected ally and a powerful weapon. Nathan Reed, once scorned by Julian, now fanned the flames of her resolve. With evidence in hand and her conviction strengthened, Eleanor knew she was no longer alone. The battle against Cassandra and Julian had entered a new phase, and she was ready to transform their dark secrets into light, not just for Lily, but for the millions awaiting Aurora's miracle. Eleanor Voss, standing in the dim glow of the Drake Hotel's room, had transformed her pain into an unquenchable fire, burning not only to safeguard Lily's future but to reshape her own destiny. The betrayal by Julian and Cassandra Holt's conspiracy was not merely a personal war, it was a battle for Biovance, a company carrying the hope of saving millions. But Eleanor knew that divorce, however bitter, would not end this storm. She needed a greater victory, a bold move to flip the board and secure her daughter's legacy. With the steely resolve of a strategist, she chose to confront Richard Holt, the mastermind behind Helix Gen's plot. In a clandestine meeting at the highest conference room of Willis Tower, Chicago's towering symbol of power, this was no mere negotiation. It was a declaration that Eleanor Voss would never yield. Willis Tower, its gleaming glass reflecting Chicago's sky, was the perfect battlefield for this showdown. Eleanor strode into the conference room, clad in a meticulously tailored black suit that hugged her 7-month pregnant frame with elegance and authority. Her hair pulled back tightly, revealing a chiseled face, her eyes ablaze with an inextinguishable fire. Gone was the betrayed wife who stood frozen in the penthouse hallway. She was now a warrior, an heir to the Voss legacy, ready to bring her enemies to their knees. The conference room, with its long mahogany table and sweeping city views, crackled with tension. Richard Holt, a man in his late 60s with a stern face and the cold gaze of a predator, sat across from her with 2 lawyers. His team, in expensive suits and armed with thick briefcases, seemed prepared for every scenario except Eleanor's arrival. She placed a black leather briefcase on the table, opening it with the precision of someone who knew the value of every second. Without a single unnecessary greeting, Eleanor locked eyes with Holt, her voice calm but cutting like a blade. "Mr. Holt, I'm not here to negotiate emotions. I'm here to discuss the future of Biovance and Helix Gen." Before he could respond, she slid a slim but weighty dossier across the table, its pages holding evidence that could shatter his empire. "These are bank transactions," she said, her tone unwavering, showing Helix Gen funneled 3 large payments through a Panama shell company to pay a hacker to breach Biovance's systems. "The target? Aurora's formula drug your company craves but could never create." Holt raised an eyebrow, but his face remained stone-like. Unmoved, Eleanor pressed on. She pressed a button on a small device, and Cassandra Holt's arrogant voice echoed from a recording, clear and piercing. "Julian's an easy puppet to pull. A few sweet words, and I've got the key to Aurora. My father will be thrilled. The room's air grew heavy, as if Chicago's sky itself pressed down. One of Holt's lawyers coughed, trying to break the silence. But Eleanor continued. Her gaze locked on him. Your daughter manipulated my husband, and you funded that scheme. But you chose the wrong adversary. She delivered her demands with the confidence of a queen. Helix Gen will halt its takeover bid for Biovance immediately. Additionally, the 18% of Biovance shares your company quietly acquired over the past year will be transferred to a trust in my daughter's name, Lily Voss. If you refuse, this evident bank transactions, the recording, and the hacker's activity log will be on the desks of the SEC and FBI by morning. Her words, though soft, carried the weight of a final verdict. Holt's lawyers began to whisper, but he raised a hand to silence them, his eyes betraying a flicker of unease for the first time. Holt, a man accustomed to manipulating boardrooms and markets, was now cornered. He stared at the dossier, realizing Eleanor held not just evidence but Helix Gen's future. An SEC investigation could crash his company's stock, while the FBI would pursue criminal charges. He had underestimated her, mistaking her for a wounded wife, rather than a strategist with steel in her blood. After a long pause, Holt nodded, his voice hoarse. We'll withdraw. The shares will be transferred. It wasn't agreement, it was surrender. Eleanor rose, briefcase in hand, her eyes never leaving Holt. Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Holt, she said, a faint smile sharp as a blade. And tell your daughter to stay away from my family. She walked out, leaving Holt and his lawyers in stunned silence, as if a storm had just swept through. Willis Tower, with its glittering glass, seemed to tremble at her triumph. Eleanor hadn't just saved Biovancesh, had laid the foundation for an impregnable fortress, where Lily would grow up with a legacy of strength and justice. In the tempest of arrogance and complacency, Julian Caldwell, once hailed as the tech genius leading Biovance, blindly believed he held all the cards. Unaware that Eleanor Voss, the wife he betrayed, had quietly built an impregnable fortress, he plunged into a reckless legal battle, hoping to cling to power and prestige. But in the shadows of his despicable schemes, Eleanor's light of justice, guided by the formidable lawyer Olivia Kane and bolstered by the unexpected ally Nathan Reed, was poised to deliver a final, crushing blow. The last divorce meeting, held in a Stark law office in downtown Chicago, was not merely the end of a marriage, it was the complete collapse of a man who underestimated the strength of the woman he once called his wife. Julian, with the smug confidence that had become his trademark, entered the fray with dirty tactics. He spread vicious rumors that Eleanor, 7 months pregnant, was mentally unstable, swayed by hormones and unfit to be a mother. These whispers, scattered through tabloid articles and hushed conversations among Chicago's elite, aimed to tarnish her image. Furthermore, he filed for joint custody, claiming that Lily, their unborn daughter, needed a stable father like him to secure her future. These cruel, underhanded strategies were not about protecting Lily, but about chaining Eleanor to him, making her a hostage in his power games. Yet Julian was oblivious that he faced an Eleanor forged in pain, a strategist with the unyielding fire of the Voss dynasty in her veins. Olivia Kane, the notorious divorce attorney with silver hair and eyes sharp as a blade, countered with a devastating dossier, crafted with the precision of a legal masterpiece. The file was a lethal weapon, containing testimony from Biovance's senior staff, who had witnessed Julian's recklessness in business decisions, from ignoring safety warnings in Aurora's development to prioritizing profits over ethics. Hotel receipts from his dozens of clandestine meetings with Cassandra Holt over 4 months painted a damning portrait of a man who not only cheated but disrespected his family. The fatal strike came from Nathan Reed's report, the former Biovance chief engineer, providing evidence of Julian's shady dealings. emails and contracts revealing he deliberately leaked sensitive Aurora data to gain Helix Gen's support for another deal. These documents exposed not just Julian's betrayal of Eleanor, but of the very company he led. The final divorce meeting unfolded in a downtown Chicago law office, where glass walls overlooking the glimmering river reflected the stifling tension. Julian, in an expensive gray suit but with weary eyes, sat across from Eleanor. She, in an elegant navy dress, exuded the calm of someone holding every card. Olivia placed a thick file on the table, but the defining moment came when Eleanor spoke. With a voice steady yet sharp as a sword, she locked eyes with Julian. "You thought you were fighting for the penthouse or your reputation, Julian. But you lost everything the moment you stepped into Lily's room with Cassandra." She paused, letting her words sink in, then continued. "Thanks to my deal with Richard Holt, I'm now Biovance's largest shareholder. The company you thought was yours belongs to me and to Lily." Julian was stunned, his face paling as if drained of blood. He frantically flipped through Olivia's file, hands trembling as he read the shareholder disclosure confirming Eleanor's control. She had turned Helix Gen's plot to her advantage, forcing Holt to transfer 18% of Biovance's shares to a trust for Lily, securing her daughter's future. Julian, once proud as the king of tech, was now a mere pawn in Eleanor's game. With no escape, he signed the divorce agreement with harsh terms, relinquishing the penthouse at One Magnificent Mile, the lavish Lake Forest estate, and $150 million transferred to Lily's trust. Each stroke of the pen was a cut to his pride, but he had no choice. As Julian left the room, his silhouette fading behind the glass door, Eleanor felt no victor's joy. Instead, she felt liberation not for defeating Julian, but for protecting Lily. Olivia placed a hand on her shoulder, her eyes gleaming with pride. "You did it, Eleanor. Not just for Lily, but for yourself." In the fading light of a Chicago afternoon, Eleanor knew this was not an end, but the start of a new journey, one where she would build a legacy not just of wealth, but of love and justice. In the radiant dawn of a Chicago spring morning, as the first rays of sunlight sparkled on Lake Michigan's surface like scattered diamonds, Lily Eleanor Voss was born. Her clear, pure cry, echoing through the delivery room at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, was a healing melody, soothing the deep scars in Eleanor Voss's heart. After the storm of betrayal, months of relentless battle to protect Biovance and her daughter's future, the moment she held Lily in her arms brought Eleanor a peace she thought was lost forever. Now, reclaiming her maiden name Eleanor Voschi was not just a victorious warrior, but a mother, a woman finding light in the simplest joys, and a soul learning to heal from brokenness. Eleanor returned to the penthouse at One Magnificent Mile, once a stage for painful memories, now transformed by her into a haven brimming with love. Lily's room, once tainted by Julian and Cassandra's betrayal, was remade entirely, like a ritual, to banish darkness. New murals, painted by a local artist, depicted a star-filled sky over Lake Michigan, with glowing constellations shining softly in the night. Each brushstroke was Eleanor's promise that Lily would grow up under a sky free of storm clouds, where dreams could soar freely. The oak cradle, a 3-generation Voss family heirloom, was polished anew, standing solemnly at the room's center, cradling silk blankets scented with baby powder. Gone were traces of mint, oil, or painful memories. The room was now a sanctuary of new beginnings, where Eleanor's love for her daughter warmed every corner. The early days of motherhood brought Eleanor a pure joy she had never known. She spent hours with Lily, captivated by her daughter's clear eyes, listening to her bell-like giggles as she softly sang lullabies. Simple moments, Lily's tiny hand brushing hers, a toothless smile upon waking, or curious eyes gazing at the sky through the penthouse window became a balm to Eleanor's soul. She realized that, though she had triumphed over Julian and thwarted Helix Gen's plot, her greatest victory was not in boardrooms or courtrooms. It was here, in her arms, in Lily's tiny heart, where pure love banished all darkness. Each day with her daughter, Eleanor felt reborn, like a flower blooming after a storm. But Eleanor didn't keep these emotions to herself. In quiet nights, as Lily slept and moonlight streamed through the window, she opened an old leather-bound journal, a gift from her mother, and began chronicling her journey. Each page was a raw story from the moment she discovered betrayal in Lily's room, the days of battling rage and pain, to the instant she rose, turning pain into strength. She wrote of Olivia Kane, who taught her justice was a sharp weapon, of Nathan Reed, who reminded her kindness endures, and of herself, a woman who learned to love herself again. Eleanor wrote hoping that one day, when Lily grew up, she would read these words and understand that love and resilience can conquer any darkness, that scars don't define you, but how you rise from them does. The journal was not just a gift for Lily, it was Eleanor's way of facing herself. Through each line, she rediscovered fragments of her heart, slowly stitching them together with threads of forgiveness and hope. She wrote of nights she resented Julian, but also of the moment she chose to let go for him, but to lighten her own heart. The pages, soaked with sweat and tears, became the foundation for a greater journey one. Eleanor would soon share with the world, not just to heal herself, but to light the path for others. In the penthouse's gentle glow, as Lily's steady breaths mingled with the sound of waves from Lake Michigan, Eleanor felt a profound peace. She had erased painful memories, not by forgetting, but by building a future where love was the guiding torch. Lily, with her smile like spring sunshine, was proof that from the most agonizing ruins, life could still blossom. And Eleanor, journal in hand and daughter in her arms, knew her story was just beginning a story, not just of survival, but of how love and resilience can transform the world. Eleanor Voss, a woman who once stood in the shadow of betrayal, transformed her pain into a blazing torch, illuminating not only her own path but the lives of millions. After triumphing over Julian Caldwell and Richard Holt, she didn't stop at reclaiming control of Biovance or safeguarding her daughter Lily's future. Eleanor understood that true strength lies not in defeating enemies, but in building a legacy that transcends past scars. With a resilient heart and a visionary gaze, she turned Biovance into a beacon of hope, crafting a story of healing and love that left the world in awe. From the ashes of deceit, Eleanor found lightened. She resolved to spread it to every dark corner of existence. Under Eleanor's leadership as Biovance's board chair, the company entered a bold new era. She poured her heart into bringing Aurora revolutionary gene-editing drug to market, undeterred by prior leaks. Aurora, capable of curing rare genetic diseases in children, was more than a product. It was Eleanor's promise to families fighting in despair. She worked tirelessly with scientists, rejecting pressures for hasty commercialization, ensuring every dose was safe and effective. When Aurora was approved, thousands of children worldwide gained a new chance at life, from Chicago's hospitals to remote villages. Each healthy child's smile was proof of Eleanor's resolve. A flame kindled from the ruins of betrayal. But Eleanor wanted her story to reach beyond boardrooms or labs. She yearned to touch the hearts of other women, those wounded and convinced they could not rise. She wrote, "From ashes to light, a raw, stirring journey of how she overcame Julian and Cassandra's betrayal, turning pain into strength." In its pages, Eleanor bared her vulnerabilities the nights she wept, clutching her pregnant belly in the Drake Hotel, or moments she doubted her ability to fight. Yet she also shared how she found light through love for Lily, faith in herself, and allies like Olivia Kane and Nathan Reed. The book swiftly became a bestseller, translated into dozens of languages, inspiring millions of women globally to rise from ruins and rewrite their own stories. With the book's proceeds, Eleanor founded the Margaret Voss Scholarship, named for her mother, the woman who taught her that tears are a luxury, but strength is a legacy. The fund empowered young women to pursue dreams in business and science, especially those from hardship. From Chicago's universities to small Midwest communities, Eleanor gave opportunities to young girls, helping them reach the stars she once dreamed of at Kellogg. Each thank you letter from a scholar lightened her heart, as if she were returning the light the world once tried to steal from her. One spring evening, as silvery moonlight stretched across Lake Michigan, Eleanor stood by the penthouse window at One Magnificent Mile, cradling a sleeping Lily in her arms. She gazed at the shimmering lake, where city lights danced like fallen stars. Lily's room, now filled with the scent of baby powder and murals of starry skies, symbolized a fresh start. Eleanor hadn't just reclaimed her life, she discovered a deeper love for her daughter, herself, and those she could uplift. In a quiet moment, she thought of Julian. She forgave him, not because he deserved it, but because she wanted her heart free, unchained from resentment. Forgiveness, for Eleanor, was the final key to her liberation, paving a path bathed in light. Eleanor Voss's story is proof that from the deepest pain, you can find the brightest light. She didn't just overcome betrayal's darkness, she turned it into a torch guiding millions. If her journey of healing and love touches your heart, hit the like button, share this video with those needing a spark of hope, and leave a comment. How have you risen from darkness? Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories. See you next time, and always believe, light awaits you ahead.